Today on the show, Radical Ones, we're smoking. It's 1994's The Mask with Jim Carrey and Cameron Diaz.
That's a spicy meatball!
It's time to get radical.
Said he's having no trouble. It's simple.
Hello there. It's showtime.
What is this, trick or treat?
Did I do that?
Good morning, Charlie.
Sailor Moon, the champion of justice.
Deal with it. Daddy would have gotten us Uzis.
The power is yours.
Get down, honey, get down.
And look, I won't go far, okay? If the apocalypse comes,
Hold your fire! I'm a human!
Grace Jones.
Thunder! 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 Thundercats!
Power of 3 will set us free. Power of 3 will set us free. Power of 3 will set us free.
But I ain't one to gossip, so if anyone asks you, you ain't heard it from me. No, you have.
No more room in hell. The dead walk here.
Dooby-doo! Welcome back, Radical Ones, to another episode of the Radical Retro Rewind podcast. As always, I am your host, Radical Ryan Hunter, here with Rob, the movie geek himself. Hello, Rob.
Hi, Ryan.
Today is a big movie. A matter of fact, Rob, you had said, I believe, you had seen this 6 times in the theaters.
Yes, I was going to bring this up again, but it seems like you've done your research, and I applaud you. Yeah, I'm probably going to repeat a lot of what I said. When was that? Like 2 years ago?
2022, but
okay,
it feels
so
like
2 to 3 years ago, yeah.
It feels like 10, honestly.
I thought I shut that thing down a long time ago. That's
that part
so
of your
weird.
life?
That must have been one of the last recorded episodes, right?
It was near the end, yes. What we're talking about, by the way, was Rob's podcast, Movie Geek and Proud.
Yeah.
Which is still available.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if 2 years makes a difference on opinion. But yes, this is the film that I've watched the most times in theaters. The Craft is a very, very close second. But the reason why this one is still the highest is because I saw most of the viewings at a dollar theater, if you remember those. So yeah, anytime there was spare time for me and, my dad wanted to get me out of the way, or I just wanted to get out of the house, like, I would just take me to the dollar show. I'll go see The Mask again and again.
Okay, so this movie, The Mask, and then The Craft probably would be the two you've seen, you think, most in the theaters.
Yeah.
You will never guess the movie I have seen.
Which one? Did you say in the other one?
Never.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever said this to anybody.
Sure.
No, really, honestly, because it never comes up. Rush Hour 3.
That is amazing. Why part 3? What was going on in your life around part 3? You love that French dude. That's what it was. Like, you couldn't get enough of him.
Growing up, my mother and I, that was the movies that we watched together. I don't know how it became. It was Rush Hour. We watched 1 and 2 so many times. We used to say, wouldn't it be amazing if they made a part 3? They made the part 3, and for whatever reason, with and without her, I saw that about 8 times. Crazy.
That's amazing. I love that. Did I share the story about how I got The Mask once it was on home video?
You went to I want to say a local?
Yes. It was a big chain. It wasn't as big as Blockbuster, but it was a chain. It wasn't like a mom and pop video store. But I did tell you that story, right?
You begged them to sell it to you, I want to say.
Well,
yes.
I mean, beg is a very strong word, but yeah, I was very aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I went there, they were about to close, and I was already like on a first name basis with almost the entire staff, right? Because
that's great.
Because I just went there all the time. So this man definitely knew me because I go in, and it was around closing time when we were making last minute rentals, and And this man had all of the VHSs on a rack behind the counter.
What a
because they were
tease.
just going to put them out after they closed. And I just got the mask just staring at me, this home video. And I'm like, dude, it's right there. Just sell it to me. I'm going to come back and get it tomorrow anyway. Just give me the thing. I don't know if he really went against the rules or had to do some very heavy thing. I feel bad about it now because he was probably just doing customer service. Or maybe he was like, yeah, I'm going to do it for you. But either way, this man literally sold me the copy. So I got the first copy. And I went home and watched that I was so happy. But it was just nice to also have that kind of status to where like I can get stuff like that from back in the day. Oh, but yeah, I was obsessed. This is one of my favorite movies ever, seriously. So
you know why that's amazing? And some of our listeners might not realize that because I don't know how it is anymore, but that was a thing. They would not. I remember distinctly trying to buy a Sailor Moon VHS of the movies that were coming out. And the woman at Blockbuster, who was always cranky and nasty to begin with, it was the day before, but it was out on the shelf to buy. Nope, can't sell you that. I'm like, but it's out on the shelf. So it was a thing. And so Rob really did, because I feel like what was the first midnight release? Maybe the Titanic and then Twilight or something?
yeah, exactly.
This is the story of Stanley Ipkiss.
Stanley, you are the nicest guy. Really, you are.
His job is at the bank.
You're 40 minutes late. Now, that's the same as stealing.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dickey. It'll never happen again.
He loves his dog.
Come on, Ron. Give him to me. Drop it.
He's polite to his landlord.
Ipkiss, do you have any idea what time it is?
You know, Mrs. Penman?
What?
Nothing.
And the most exciting thing in his life are his pajamas. But now...
Hey, you! What are you doing down there?
I'm just looking for my mask.
all that is about to change. Because Stanley Ipkiss is not the man he used to be.
SMOKIN! It's like it brings your innermost desires to life. You become some sort of love-crazy wild man.
I want him here tomorrow, alive.
Now, you have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Do ya, punks?
Jim Carrey is...
That's the guy.
Hello.
The Mask.
Ooh, somebody stop me!
Of course, we're talking about 1994's Mask and not the one with Cher that always comes up as well when people say The Mask.
there is a difference in title. So because the Cher one doesn't have the word "the" in it,
You're right,
so
it's
that's how
Mask.
you're supposed to be. But then you can also get it confused with the cartoon Mask.
Yes,
but that's the acronym Mask, not the movie Mask. But yeah, you could go either way. There was a little bit of confusion. I think looking it up, it really depends what was popular at the time. But yeah, I think it's really easy to get it confused. But yes, we are talking about Jim Carrey's The Mask in preparation of St. Patty's Day, aka Green Day, aka Green Mask, aka The Mask. That's why I picked this movie for March.
Okay, because that was one of my questions going back to these years later. It was March, and we were doing this movie in March, and I'm like, what are the odds that we're doing? So that is why. Okay,
I don't really get into the St. Patty's thing, so I just celebrate Greene. I celebrate Luigi, and I celebrate the Mask and Yoshi and Ninja Turtle.
And it is your color.
It is my color.
Green
So
is your color.
yeah, I just celebrate. I celebrate Winnie, and yeah, I can't help it. So that's why I was like, we're gonna do The Mask in March, so we can stay in the green.
Okay, so it is described as, for anyone who has not seen this 90s classic, it's a classic.
It is a classic, yeah.
Stanley Ipkiss, an ordinary man who finds an enchanted mask that transforms him into the title character, the green-faced troublemaker who can cartoonishly alter himself and his surroundings at will. So in that episode, Rob brought this up as well. It was based on a Dark Horse comic that was very dark. And now going back since that episode in research for this one, yes, the comic is definitely much more of a R-rated thing. And so this is your movie, so let's speak on it.
I would love to read the comics someday. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I do know why I haven't done it yet. I'm not holding back or resisting or anything. I just haven't really thought about it. But I feel like reading it now would be so therapeutic, just to kind of like go through that whole history and just see like how much of the movie is adapted. Like, did they do their research and try to adapt a lot of things that I should have known, like Easter eggs or anything? And
you know what I saw in research really quickly? And by the way, the art is so beautiful. Like, it's bright.
Isn't it like Spanish? I'm thinking it's very like Eon Flux and
you know,
just
it is very
like,
out there. Yes.
Like Max. Do you remember Max?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing, but I don't know.
You know, it is. It's so 90s, by the way. It is 90s. But yes, it's darker. It's like shaded darker, but colorful at the same time. So that scene with that woman, that cranky woman who lives in that apartment.
The landlord. Gotcha.
Was in the panels I saw, but it was much different.
Wow, nice. Yeah, I do want to read those someday. I'm sure they're fun. I think it makes sense to make it a little bit more lighthearted comedy, PG-13. This definitely attracted a lot of people, especially those who didn't read it. I don't know how popular the Mask comic was, but if you're coming from an IP that's not as popular or not well known, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And
they did, right?
Yeah, I think for the time they made a good choice in making it more suitable for children ish.
Let's rock this joint.
This is New Line Cinemas, the first movie to have their new logo, which is classic today.
You're kidding. That's that with the mask? Really?
That's what it says, which is fascinating.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that logo. Anytime that logo comes up, I know I'm in for it. I just know it.
Especially like people who grew up like us in the 90s. So they bought the rights because they were looking for their next Freddy Krueger and a creature that was fun and sarcastic. So many scripts, by the way. I mean, different ones with the mask killing people, and then there was one, it says, with a mask maker who turns teenagers into zombies.
Oh, okay.
With masks. And then it was shifted to, like Rob said, this more family friendly, colorful Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but not movie.
Yeah. So when you were talking about the synopsis, I like that they labeled him ordinary. Like they could have said like nerd or loser or like they could have used a lot of derogatory words. And I think ordinary is a nicer term in contrast to what the mask brings out of him. So I did like that. I was explaining that I had to watch this in preparation for the recording, and I got a little bit of a eye roll, which is whatever, but as I was explaining it to him, I was like, this movie for me stood out because they allowed the nice guy to be the hero. They allowed this ordinary guy to get the girl. And even though it is a fantasy, to me at that age, I felt that this was a believable story of a guy who is a little bit of a pushover that can really excel. And I mean, as you watch, every time he uses the mask, he loses a little bit of himself as far as like control, but it's because he is now diving into a little bit of impulse and what he would do in a situation. I think that is giving him more confidence into doing things that he would, especially when he like went off on his boss, right? Like that's the mask talking, but he's gone through it enough. He's like, screw it. I'm just going to say what's on my mind because like, why am I holding back? And it makes him a bit of a better man. And so even a big portion of the final battle scene is without the the mask. Like he puts it on to protect himself, but at the same time, like he beat up the bad guy, the big bad, by himself. And so I think that was also needed in order for him to transcend into his sort of id or bring a little bit of that out to say that there's nothing wrong with like giving into that kind of thing. So I appreciated the nice guy finishing first in this, and because it just doesn't happen that often in film, and it was also funny. It was just a really funny and fantastical movie.
What are you doing down there?
I'm just looking for my mask. I got it.
You know what I'm thinking of now? I definitely sense a pattern here with movies that you love.
Yeah.
This is very Little Shop of Horrors with the, you know, like the underdog Seymour. Totally.
We did Blank Man and, you know, like stuff like that. I just love.
That is the legacy sequel we need. Holy crap.
He could never, but I would love it.
Oh my God. And they could do like a parody where you think it's like a Batman movie, like he's coming out of retire. Oh my God. That's amazing. Can I tell you, rewatching this, I am still upset about the beginning scene with the coworker and the tickets.
I got those concert tickets you wanted.
You're kidding. For Friday night? Stanley, this is great. Oh, yeah.
So what time should I pick you up?
Well, see, here's the thing. My very best girlfriend just came into town, and I know she would die to go to this. So could we maybe get an extra ticket for her?
Ooh. They're out. They're sold out. That means there's no more.
Oh. Well, I just can't let her sit home all alone.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you just go with your friend?
This is Stanley. I couldn't do that.
No, come on.
Stanley, you are the nicest guy. Really, you are.
Yeah.
Charlie, isn't Stanley the nicest guy?
The best.
Okay, I did write a question about that. Go ahead.
It frustrates me so much that she said it with such ease and he just gave it. He just surrendered just like that. Your friend that randomly is staying with you and you can't leave and yada, yada, yada.
So that was going to be my question. Do you feel that she manipulated him, or did he just give in and she took advantage of his kindness? Which does put her in a more of a horrible spot. I think that Stanley could have put his foot down. We don't know the dynamic of their relationship, and I think that he just was like, I kind of want to see you, we're friends. And, you know, he had this assumption, but her waiting until the last minute to like, see, I have this friend, can we get another? You know, it's kind of messed up. I don't know if she expected him to just eventually give in and be like, why don't you just go? But I just wonder if that was her plan. What do you think?
As you asked that, I could see both points, and that's not an answer, but I could totally see her either pre-knowing based on their relationship he would give in that easily, or I hope it was that it just worked out in her favor. I feel like it was premeditated because I feel like a lot of people in his life were just like that with him.
So you have no frustration over the fact that Jim is a man, Stanley is a man, and he decided to give them up. It is not her fault. If he wants to be that overly nice and romantic or whatever the case, that's on him.
You know what, though? It is crazy to think that's true. Like, he just surrendered them and there was no pushback. So who is at fault with that? Ooh.
Yeah. To be fair, and I love the fact that it was Jolie Fisher. I kind of like she's amazing. I wish she would do more, but they did not paint redheads very nicely in this movie. They only had two, and they were both horrible people.
That is a thing, right? Since
I know.
Red Herring and pup named Scooby Doo, we've had that.
Well, that's Red Herring. I'll bet he's working with Chickenstein.
You're a real featherbrain, Jones.
But yeah, it was kind of sad that both of them didn't really work out, even though they both kind of like, I believe Amy Yazbek, I forget her name in the movie, but I believed her character did like potentially like him in the beginning, and then it was like, but it was just such a full 180 on like, ew, I don't like, you had me waiting here with this loser all this time. Like, I just was like, we get it, it was a setup, but I mean, I don't know. It felt genuine when they first chatted because the deal wasn't out, right? Like the 50 grand wasn't offered at that time of the movie. So it's just like, why are we suddenly just like, ew, I don't want to be around him.
Miss, what'd you say your name was?
Peggy Brandt.
Wait a minute. Peggy Brandt? Of Ask Peggy?
Yeah, that's right.
You printed one of my letters last year. Remember? Nice guys finish last.
You're Mr. Nice Guy?
Yes!
Oh, Stanley, do you realize how much mail we got about that letter? I mean, there are literally hundreds of women out there looking for a guy just like you.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know how hard it is to find a decent man in this town? Most of them think monogamy is some kind of wood.
See, Rob, you're saying everything I'm thinking. It's so weird because I'll add it back. I'm circling back now. I couldn't stand this moment either. I felt so upset with that portrayal. But then she did say she didn't want him hurt. And then we talked about this in another thing. There's a deleted scene where she is put in the printing press and it was removed and things. So
she does die. Yeah.
You know, you could say, oh, at least she said she didn't think he was going to be harmed. But their chemistry in the beginning was really good in that sense that you're like, if you didn't know it was coming, you're like, oh, because it is that turn, right? Where it's like, you think Cameron is going to be the, you know, oh, especially with her bag with the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate the twist.
Sure.
I was not feeling her again now. In this rewatch, I'm like, oh, no, sorry. Bye, Peggy.
Whatever that mask is, you don't need it. You, Stanley Ipkiss, are already all you'll ever need to be.
Gosh, Peg. Do you really mean that?
Actually, no.
What?
This is what I really like about him. Stanley is the type of person that watches cartoons, has these comic books with Looney Tune characters in his office desk, the Tasmanian devil pillow in his apartment, of course, the Tex Avery wolf statue. I love that. And we mentioned this on Movie Geek and Proud. It's another character that early on shows a collector or someone who appreciates comics and cartoons. So this was an early, I feel like, showing of whatever the term is now for us that love these things.
Yeah, I mean, the underdog of it all. I again, this is another thing that I love about this is like we're looking at a grown man who is still embracing his childlike innocence, right? Like for me, the term you always hear, it's like man-child or whatever. And yes, that does exist. But this man also has responsibilities. He pays his bills. He has his own place. He's responsible for a dog. He's not a man-child because if he were, he wouldn't be able to keep up a job. He would
buy those concert tickets.
Yeah, he would just be sitting on his butt, you know, like he gets his car fixed. Like he's doing the adulting thing, but he's also embracing the fact that I still watch cartoons and I still enjoy funny slapstick stuff and geeky memorabilia. Like he should not be like ashamed for that. But I just love that they highlighted a guy like that in a movie because you don't see that.
Yes.
And again, he would probably be looked at as a more of a feminine like gentleman. He's not as masculine to get the girl. And I just love that presentation that he just has a very fun kid inside him, you know?
That's correct, Wendy. We all wear masks, metaphorically speaking.
And of course, this is the perfect vehicle for Jim Carrey. Although it's so funny doing research, that episode that we're talking about, they didn't want Jim originally, which is, you know, because he just was on In Living Color at that point, probably doing stand-up maybe, I don't, you know. And the same thing with Cameron, we mentioned that Anna Nicole Smith still blows me out of it.
Yeah, that's wild.
What?
I can actually see why they would pick her because Marilyn Monroe was too old for the role. And this movie definitely fit that demographic. You know, that whole, like, they never went to any other place except for Coco Bongo. That's the only place that existed outside of Stanley's apartment. And just the whole motif of that bar fits in Anna Nicole Smith, right? So I get the reason why they wanted to cast her, but I'm so glad they went with Cameron.
I mean, literally, the fact that she turned it down originally because she was just a model, she didn't want to act, and then she auditioned a number of times. We wouldn't have had Cameron Diaz really without this unknown at the time. And man, does she carry it for her first movie, and not being an actress, I am still impressed going in with that.
Yeah, I thought she was good. We didn't get much backstory as to how she wound up with him and like, did she really like him? Because it seems like from the get-go, she is like a prisoner. She's like being told, like, yeah, she's in there with the camera, but it's not free will. To me, it feels like she was like forced into doing that. Because the minute she goes back and, you know, she's making fun of him or whatever, and she just seems so disdained by him. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see exactly how that dynamic worked out, or was she just fed up at this point? Because she was really good with, you know, charming Stanley in that moment. I thought she did so well. But then she meets him in front of the club, and the way that she talked to him, even if it was a brief moment, she seemed like genuinely like, oh yeah, I talked to you. Like, you know, I don't know. They're
lovable, really.
She
cute.
Was. Yeah.
Cute.
Mr. Ipkiss, hi.
Hi.
Are you okay?
Me? Well, I'm great. Really good. I just never felt better, really. I'm just catching some air out here.
Your car, sir.
That's not my car.
But it matches the ticket.
All right. I'll take it. But I am very angry. Believe this?
You're driving in a Porsche.
And she looked great. She looked really good. Did you notice her wardrobe was kind of cartoonish in a way too? I don't know. I may be reaching, but like they were so vibrant and just...
The vibrancy, yes. Like everything in this movie, very vibrant.
Yeah.
But I did hear that they said the director said who championed for her, so hey, at least. But to cut her slits low in her dress and stuff. So, you know,
yeah.
Now that we're speaking about the club, I really did think, watching things like this, and I guess I Love Lucy, that this is what clubs would be like when you were an adult.
Oh, that's adorable.
And I was extremely disappointed there was no bongos. And, you know, like a Cuban band leader there playing. But man, this is like a time capsule.
Do they have theme bars like that in New York? I'm sure there's one right now that you could possibly go to.
You're right. I mean, sure, they have like Jekyll and Hyde and things like that. But they have them in the downtown Disney. They used to have Gloria Estefan's restaurant that was kind of like this, but now it's closed.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Bongos, actually. Great name.
Yeah.
This was, I feel like, a shift where in culture, everyone was doing this music, and this really was a shift. I mean, of course, he became a cultural phenomenon between this and Ace Ventura, but man, did this, like, blow up.
Powers, I could be a superhero!
I could fight crime, protect the innocent.
Work for world peace!
But first,
I'll say this, the cartoonish and like power element of this movie is really what drawn me to it at first, right? I had never known what the mask was. I didn't go with this knowledge of it was a comic or anything. I thought this was a completely original character. I barely knew who Jim Carrey was. I'm sure by name I would have been like, oh, cool, but it wasn't like, oh, I know he's gonna like kill it. Like it was nothing like that. I purely went for the fact that this man got to put on a mask and get powers. That's all I went for. And I just loved what they did with this. I think for a live action film, they really adapted the cartoon aspect and world with all the environments around him. I just think immediately when he puts it on for the first time, he slides out of the door and the door slams behind him and he doesn't even have to touch it. And I just think little stuff like that is just so prevalent because, you know, gravity doesn't exist in cartoons, right? You know, him pulling the mallet out of his pocket, like all of that I just thought was so. And did you notice throughout the whole movie, he always had like stopwatches? Like,
yeah, that was a thing. There was
always a time, and just like he empties his pocket and a moth comes out because it's so like all those little bitty touches I think are so integral in creating that this man is influencing the environment around him and just making it cartoonish. But then it's also even down to the sound effects that anytime he moved a part of his body, it would make some kind of cartoonish like noise. And I just loved all of that.
SMOKIN! It's party time! P-A-R-T. Why? Because I gotta!
What did you think about the idea? Like, I mean, clearly this is a fantasy. Do you feel that they went a little bit too fake with the idea that everybody just was okay that a man could freeze in midair and have icicles on his body? Or the fact that he's talking to the camera, thanking everyone for the award, and they're just standing there. And it's just like, I guess when he's in his mode of being a cartoon, like the world stuff, I don't know. Do you feel that it was too fake?
This viewing, that stood out to me. That exact scene when he froze and literally, and they're like, okay,
unfreeze. Yeah, they just didn't care what was happening.
Freeze! Put your hands up.
But you told me to freeze.
All right, unfreeze. You're under arrest.
No, it wasn't me. It was the one-armed man.
All right, I confess. I did it, you hear? And I'm glad. Glad, I tell ya!
What are they gonna do to me, Sarge? What are they gonna do?
Sorry, son. That's not my department. Search him.
Like an entire SWAT team just gets possessed and starts singing and nobody has an issue.
So Beetlejuice of him, right?
It is very Beetlejuice. And I just don't know if that was like playing within the rules. Why was everybody so okay with it? I mean, I'm just nitpicking, but it's like, did that take you out of it or was that?
No, only because of the cartoon. But oddly enough, this is the first time I ever thought of that this time. Is it the musical thing where songs can happen and people could freeze and, you know, you just carry on with your life?
No, I hear you on that. So yeah, I really enjoyed sort of the environment manipulation of it all. I think there was some talk about the fact that Jim Carrey saved the movie on a lot of budget.
A lot.
Because they didn't have to put so much CGI into his facial expressions because he was able to pull his face however they needed him to do for the majority of him wearing the mask. And so they had less CGI to work with. And I just find that to be amazing. Yeah, I just think that's fantastic. He was able to do that.
And that makeup took 4 hours, Rob, and those fake teeth were not meant to be used, it says, outside of dialogue scenes, and he learned to use them and start talking in the character. So again, it's a testament to his comedic skills, because you were saying, you know, you went for the power thing. I remember my friends at the time and me, like, we went because of In Living Color, and he was on that show.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always doing these crazy things with his face. So it makes so much sense that he would be in a movie like this.
Yes. And you can see some of those characters from In Living Color in his package. And I also was like, how many times does he put the mask on in this 90-minute movie? Ooh. And I thought that it was only twice, but it ended up being 4 times. I forgot the meeting in the park. That whole scene, I completely forgot. And I was like, that is actually a good amount of mask using, right? Like, because we could have went a full-on, like, hour without it, and then one time at the end. But I was like, I want to see him put it on, like, all the time. But I thought it was cool. They did a really good amount.
Stanley, what are you doing here?
Tina, hi. I just wanted to come by and make sure that you two got together all right.
That's nice.
This is the perfect time because you brought up that scene in the park. So would you be taken with him? Like,
he was very aggressive, which again was another rushed sort of plot point, right? Like, we're starting to see that Stanley is relying on the mask to be cool. Like, he feels that he needs, I mean, that's the only reason why he agreed to go, because he just wanted to impress her. And he's like, well, I'm not going to get the girl being myself. And you can see this. So he was like, so my friend's going to be here, so I'm going to go. And Stanley gives this face of just like, yeah, we know what you want. I'm just going to leave. And so at this point, he's in this idea of like, I need to be the mask. But she tries to chase after him, and she's like, you don't have to go. I actually liked you being here. And
this
then,
is Nutty Professor. This is
very
the
Nutty Professor. And then the minute he comes around, he amps it up because he's like, I'm gonna give her more than what I did at the club. This is what she likes. And she is completely turned off by it. And he was just very aggressive, but I feel that was a little rushed. They needed to portray the fact like the mask isn't all that, right? He's suave, but he's also like a pig.
But would you, and love is not all about looks, that's for sure. It shouldn't be. But would you go for because it looks like it's part of his face. I'm sorry. Would you go for that whole thing plus the craziness?
It is a persona to get used to, and that's the other thing about like, did they all saw a green mask, but Edge City seemed like a city where we don't care. live your best life in a green mask. I don't think anybody cared, so.
You're right, honestly. It's true. Everything could happen in this world.
Milo.
Should we bring up Milo the dog?
Oh God, Milo. I love Milo. So at the theater, let me just say, the theater that we went to, it was practically 2.5 theaters put together. It was yes. So I wish I could remember the exact name of the theater, but this was in Washington State, and it was their biggest screen, of course. And I remember seeing Independence Day in the same theater.
Oh,
and man, the crowd is insane when you go to that specific one. And so for the mask, Milo got so much praise, so much cheering, so much laughing. And I mean, one of the biggest things was when all said and done, we got the big battle, everybody's running around, and Milo decides he's going to put on the mask. We went ballistic. We started yelling and cheering even before he officially turned. We were just like, it's about to go down. Like, we were so loud in that theater. It was one of the best experiences in a movie theater. And like, Milo Dog stole every scene he was in. Every scene.
Oh my God. This has got to be a new breed. Easy boy.
Every scene adorable. Yeah, I brought this up on Movie Geek and Proud too, but he is the alien dog in Mom and Dad Save the World from 1992.
Yeah.
Why did I think he was Rimshot from Ernest?
Yeah, I mean, almost same type of dog for sure. But Milo the dog was great. I love the addition of the dog. Very loyal, like super smart. How he got out of the cop car. Just him
outside the jail.
That was insane. And then just retrieving the keys. I just like the training of amazing. Milo was great. We love Milo.
That should have been the sequel. Milo.
Milo, this could be dangerous. You stay here and be a good boy.
What about, I just have to say, my favorite line still is, those pajamas are impossible, that the police detective says.
Impossible.
Those pajamas are impossible. This actually happened.
What impossible are those? Wow.
There can't be two idiots who own these.
There can't be two idiots with pajamas like these.
Oh, God. Such a hater. Let him be. Let him be in his pajamas. No, I was cracking up every time he said, Doyle. Doyle. Just shut up, Doyle.
I want to see you in my office first thing tomorrow morning.
Yes, Your Honor.
Boy, that doesn't sound good at all.
No, it doesn't sound good. What would sound good to you?
Breakfast.
Shut up!
tell me, which segment do you like the best as out of the 4 times he puts on the mask?
Oh, it wouldn't be the park one, so I'm going with...
You like Cuban Pete? You didn't like Cuban Pete?
Well, Cuban Pete, I was going to say, is actually...
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be. It's the most memorable, I feel like. It's a costume. If it's not the yellow suit, it is the Cuban Pete. Yeah, I mean, I guess Cuban Pete. You convinced
Pete was your favorite?
You convinced me, Rob.
They call me Cuban Pete. I'm the king of a rumba beat. When I play the maracas, I go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom. Yes, sir, I'm Cuban Pete. I'm the craze, I'm gonna get straight. When I start to dance, everything goes chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom.
Is that yours? No or no?
It is not. No, I
see. He's like, that's a basic answer, you bastard.
No, it's not.
That's what he's saying.
No, I really like the first time he puts it on. Well, just him changing was like pretty badass. I just loved that, like, because it got a little creepy for a moment, and he was like getting all wrapped up and possessed or whatever. But I love his revenge tour. You know, they kind of set up all of these elements of like people just screwing him around, and he goes on a revenge tour, and I just enjoyed all of that, like him chasing the clock, and then the minute he like destroyed it, he said snooze. I just thought that line was so funny.
It's mine, actually, my second favorite line. Okay, I'll take it, but I'm not happy with the loaner car. Okay. Oh my god,
yeah,
so funny. That was great.
Yeah, those guys deserved that whole thing.
Hey, yo, bring around the loaner.
The loner? The loner?
By the way, so the auto shop in The Mask was filmed at the exact same location as the interior of the New York firehouse in Ghostbusters. I'm sure the entrance into the auto shop was a dead giveaway. I even saw the lockers. Did you see the lockers on the left side?
This time.
But yeah, both scenes were filmed at fire station number 23.
Freaking cool.
In Los Angeles. Now, again, this is the interior, not exterior, because that's in New York.
I was going to say that's in New York.
Yeah, but the interior is the same.
That was the first time I noticed the pipe was in there.
That's funny.
I don't know how I missed it because it's clear as day now.
Yeah,
damn.
And I want to say that was probably the darkest or the most adult in the movie. That was pretty much the best that you're gonna get from the comic book Mask, right? Like he makes a Tommy gun. You know, it's very Killer Clowns. You know, he's manipulating child things into like weapons. You know, he's pulling out the condom and all of that, like,
which was ad-libbed, evidently.
Yes,
he just put a condom and just did it. I mean,
sorry, wrong pocket.
Proctologist thing of just, all of that I feel like was probably the worst he was gonna do.
But you know, it's funny that I saw that scene in the comic too, and he literally kills both of them. Like the pipes are in their heads and stuff like that.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so they did
maybe
try
they're
to
lucky
adapt
and
stuff.
maybe they learned a new thing about themselves.
Also, so the second time he puts on, he's like, I need some green, right? So he goes and robs the bank. That is probably one of my favorite lines. He goes, sorry, fellas, waste not, want not. And then he starts laughing.
Did he run into Callie Berry's Catwoman in the bank that we that we talked about too?
Yes. But he like grabs the money or whatever, and it's just so funny. But like there's a shootout, and I'm like, out of the whole crew, oh my god, look who dies. Look who dies. They kill the black man. Come on now. We still haven't learned in 94. Like, give us a seat at the table so we can just die. That's our one role. But I guess the mayor was a black man, so I guess a man in power was in it. But still, it's just like, but I was just like, really? Did he have to die? Whatever. Oh, I don't know if you noticed this. So the second time he puts on the mask, he's, they're trying to shoot him in the club and he's bouncing around and he escapes or whatever. And then the cops come in. They have him. They were like, they take his weapons away. I forget the guy's name. Peter Greene. What was his name? Dorian.
God, do I have something about Dorian?
So Dorian, they're talking to him, and they've got him sort of like, did you find a warrant? And do you remember the scene, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he's standing there with the cops, and then there's this other cop who's like, hey, upstairs we got a dead body. He's one of the guys from the heist. They put the camera back on him, and he has a bloody nose. I think the cop hit him or something, and they deleted it. I don't know. Just like go back and see.
Yes, and they might have cut it. You're right.
Because they were like, you're gonna go down, you're gonna go downtown and blah blah blah. He's like, cuff him, get him out of here. And then like he's got a bloody nose, and I just don't know when that happened. But I think like he punched him, and then they cut it out. Speaking of, they did cut another scene. They showed the origin of how the mask got in the treasure chest. So they showed it getting
this. Okay.
Yeah, it was like a bunch of Vikings, and it was poorly done. Like I don't know if it was like a pre-production thing or just some kind of like, this is the sort of outline, but we'll film it better. But yeah, a bunch of Vikings. I'm sure I'm including like Thor into this. I don't know, and none of them looked like Thor, but it was just like a bunch of Vikings.
I wish.
And they put this mask in a treasure chest, and then this witch like cursed it, and then they buried it.
Wow. Oh, we would have loved that witch element.
Yeah, and then it just fast forward to present day Edge City. But yeah, the deleted scene is actually on the DVD.
Vikings aside, I kind of might have wanted to have that included.
The whole music in the background, which tells me that this was probably just like a mock of what they are planning to film once they actually film. They used music from Darkman, Danny Elfman's, one of Danny Elfman's like music scores. I was just like, this is so Darkman. It's so funny. I have a feeling they just kind of like put stuff together.
They're like, no one will notice it's Darkman's music.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. So, Ryan, this mask seems to bring out innermost desires, the id. We've had this conversation on brunch as well. I know that you sent me a clip of what we were talking about before when this question was asked, but like basically it brings out the id. Have you sort of thought about what your id would be? And just even in terms of like brunch when she gets split, like what do you think the mask would turn you into if you focused on what you've been repressing or something that you do impulsively, so would you be as animated and friendly or just kind of wacky like Jim Carrey was, or is there a dark sinister side to you? Like what do you think that id would bring out?
See, my answer originally would be, I said, would I become more sexual? That was my first answer.
Sure, yeah.
I'm changing it now, 2025. I'm thinking deeper. Honestly, I don't think I have that much of a dark side. I would say the one thing is I'm probably would be repressed at is probably not being assertive. That's why I could never be a good manager, or when I was a manager thing, I don't like telling people what to do. So would I just tell people what to do continuously? I still don't want to tell people what to do.
You'll turn into a drill sergeant and
oh god, no,
you'll just walk around just ruling everyone. You'll turn into a dictator. That's what it'll be.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, do I repress that? I don't know. But okay, well, what are you thinking now?
Me, I don't think it would be in the same vein as Stanley. Like he literally turned into a cartoon character. I think that I think I would turn more into a very suave, sophisticated version of myself and just be like a ladies' man, I guess. In a way, I can't really think of anyone in particular. Like, I don't want to mimic some celebrity or anything, but just like, I think that I would just have
charisma.
Yeah.
Well, you
like
do.
Maybe a little bit of like a Johnny Bravo look or something, or I don't know, but it would just be this suave sort of debonair, if that's how you pronounce it, just sort of look to me. Like I would just be like, anytime I would just walk or be smooth, like I'd probably have my own theme music or whatever as I walk down the street. It would just be very confident, big, like I would get all the attention, because I'm a Leo or whatever. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of what would pop out.
How do you
think
roll
if I turn
no,
it on. I know, right?
Okay, I love that, but I think you are suave and charismatic.
Yeah, you got to spend 24. I mean, we see each other on the. But thank you, I appreciate that. I'm not denying it. I'm taking the compliment. Thank you.
Good, take it. The villain Dorian, it hit me. I'm looking at this man, and for any fellow New Yorkers, he looks like this villain Dorian looks like Anthony Cuomo, the former governor of New York.
Oh, yeah?
With the mask on. So what is that telling you?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that was actually pretty dark, too. I mean, I thought it was very inventive to just kind of give everybody a different persona.
The police are looking for the mask. So we'll give them the mask.
And like he still used sort of this animated magic quality to it to like destroy his people. But it sucked that even with the mask on, yeah, it gave him sort of a bulletproof like body, but at the same time, like he could have taken them all out and he still had his crew do all the dirty work. And I was like, this is not creative. They could have done a lot more with that, I thought.
They should have made him even more vile. Like, I guess just killing Peggy would have done that in the deleted scene.
Sure.
Thanks.
For what?
Lots of things. Sharing a sunset with me. For being the only guy who treated me like a person and not some sort of party favor. For being any kind of romantic, even a hopeless one.
I just want to kind of talk about just briefly, like, did you believe in the chemistry between the two of them, Stanley and oh my God, why am I spacing on her name right now? Tina, yes.
You know, I did, especially later on when she did, like you mentioned, she wanted to talk to Stanley a little longer in that park scene. I did buy it, but maybe that just because Cameron had this like doe-eyed, I'm 21 years old, like look of the world, but I definitely did. And Jim Carrey, I thought, looked handsome in this.
He did, actually. Like, I would totally go for a guy like him. And it's also interesting that even unbeknownst to him, like he was being favored at this dating site or this, this thing where he put in a letter about him finishing. I just like he
charmed.
He knows who he is, and he knows the reality of like how guys are perceived by him. I just think I thought he was better than what he thought he was, and that's the other thing too. It's just it's the environment that you live in, but him not getting into the club, like that is so me. Like I'm not somebody that they're just gonna let in. It's so wild. And the other guy
and the coworker friend pissed me off too. I might as well add a 3, third.
Yeah, I thought their chemistry was cool. Their scene in the police station when she came to visit him, I thought was good. I would love a legacy sequel. I know we're never gonna get it. I don't think he could ever do any of this. I mean, look at him now with Sonic.
Say it, right? Since our last talking of this, we were talking about like, can they make a legacy sequel? Now he's actually kind of confirmed it, and Cameron said that because she's back. That's the other thing. She was retiring the last time we spoke about this.
Yeah.
She's back, and she did say if he's involved, but I don't see it either, honestly.
Yeah, I think he may have outgrown it. And to be fair, I don't think it would be a cash grab movie, but he would be doing it more for us than for himself. I don't know if he sees that there's a story there, especially a reason for him to put it on like 40 years later or something.
Exactly, this many years.
But I mean, to get another sort of interpret, I mean, I guess I'm just very like jonesing for it because I do miss that sort of like antic type of movie, and we don't see too much of that going on lately. I mean, we get it in TV form sometimes, but even then, like, I'm waiting for the darker version, right? Yeah, I would love a darker version, and it'd be cool to kind of see. They could easily do Son of the Mask if they wanted to, just do it better. Just have him and Cameron have a kid and have the kid put on the mask.
Not the sperms that come, the masks thing. Sperms that you don't want.
It was also really interesting to hear that this mask is Loki. I thought that was cool. I didn't know who Loki was back in the day. Now Loki is like so big everywhere. It's kind of cool to just have that little piece of him.
That's true. That's very true.
I thought that was cool.
This is an interesting piece, Mr. Ipkiss. Looks like 4th or 5th century Scandinavian, possibly a representation of one of the Norse night gods. Maybe Loki.
I still recommend this movie as one of Jim Carrey's greatest. I mean, out of the three, that's what I was going to ask you. Out of the three, is this your favorite, or do you find one of the other ones to be your favorite?
I cannot take Ace Ventura anymore, I think.
Really? Okay.
I haven't watched it. Maybe we should do that one day. I haven't watched it in so many years.
Okay.
I loved Stanley's Reserve to Jim Carrey.
Okay.
And then When Nature Calls was,
it's that, and then it's Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, Dumb and Dumber.
So yeah, I think everyone's favorite is Dumb and Dumber, but I think
I'll take The Mask.
Yeah, I think The Mask is my favorite out of the three as well. And I had recently watched Ace Ventura for Thanksgiving because it had the football theme.
Oh, so funny.
And you know, Ace Ventura is hilarious. Yeah, I think The Mask would be my favorite, but I really enjoyed the cartoon.
Yes,
that was amazing. Yes. I bought the video game on SNES. I didn't buy any action figures, but it's just like I would love to get more of The Mask in any reboot it. I'm actually okay with that, to be honest. Like, I just want to see more. I think if they really stuck to their source material, this would be so cool. This would be so cool.
The grittier. I think we're ready for it at this point, honestly.
I think so too. Yeah.
That would be something. And it wouldn't take the legacy of The Mask comedy side, kids-friendly version. They would just be two different versions of this.
Yeah.
And game was so hard.
It was so difficult. I love that you said that. That game actually was pretty darn hard. I don't remember ever beating it.
I never got off the first or second level, I don't think, renting it. Ever.
If the people who have been doing Terrifier or the Pooverse, would you be okay with any of them doing The Mask sequel or reboot?
I think those Terrifier people probably could. You're right.
I would love it. I just don't know if they would have the budget. I mean, do we want it as big as you know these blockbuster movies are, or is it okay for like a Terrifier production to like get into The Mask?
Or you mentioned even a TV show. What about a darker TV show?
Yeah,
like a dark weekly, every week it's a new, or every season it's a new mask wearer, which happens in the comics evidently.
Oh, nice. Oh, I didn't know that.
There's Lady Mask.
Okay.
There's all different people that take over. Evidently,
Stanley's I wonder how much. Yeah, I wonder how much of The Mask is actually out there. If I were to buy the whole collection, I wonder
a volume.
That would be. I'm gonna look that up because I'm actually very curious now how that story plays out. Yeah, so we'll see.
To be continued. You know, I don't hear people talk about it, but I feel like it is definitely in the bowels of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It will forever be one of those movies that stood out and set a whole new generation with this different crazes.
Sure.
That's just amazing. And with that being said, Rob, do you have any recommendations for us today?
Rob's recommendations.
I do have recommendations. So it's hilarious. You have managed to bring up every single recommendation I have. Yeah, in case you like The Mask a lot, the three movies that we have already brought up. The first one is Ace Ventura.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that without question, that's a great follow-up to keep that momentum going. I also wrote down The Nutty Professor.
Yes.
And I'm speaking about the Eddie Murphy version. I don't know about the Jerry Lewis one, if it fits sort of the dynamic, but I was going for heavy CGI, different characters, underdog, nice guy moments. The Nutty Professor is pretty much The Mask.
Do you prefer Miss Purdy or Janet Jackson?
Oh, Miss Purdy for sure.
Right? That's what I mean. I love Janet, but I don't think
she was written. She wasn't written well. She just seemed like a trophy wife to me. Like she was just
she needed to be there. Yeah, exactly.
I don't. There was just something about her. I don't think there was a moment where those two looked like they belonged together, and that's why we never really got to see them meet. They were just already engaged.
It just was.
I don't think it was just a well-written part for her, unfortunately.
I felt like for the character, I thought it was like, oh, what? Miss Purdy that's gone?
Yeah, I know. Well, she, Janet's character, I think, kept up with the family, right? Like, she wouldn't let her, they wouldn't push over her, because, they would just dominate the table, but she was just like, don't even go there. Like, she kept up with the family, but I just don't think there were moments that really solidify that those two belong together. Maybe I have to watch it again, but
now I really want to.
I prefer Jada for sure.
That is who I wanted him to end up with. But we did get that great Janet song. I still love.
Yes, we did. I know. I still listen to it.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I know. Still listen to it. So if you did not like The Mask, did not like it, just was not for you, maybe because it wasn't like the source material, you wanted it darker, more realistic, whatever. These movies are sort of done in a cartoonish and comic book way, but a bit more grounded than the fantasy you got from The Mask. First one that I'll say is Deadpool. Deadpool definitely is The Mask. I mean, it's wisecracking, it's the one-liners, getting heard, thrown around. All of that is embodiment of The Mask. So watch Deadpool. Yeah, for sure. And it's rated R. So, I mean, you definitely get what, The next one that I'm going to say is Chronicle. So Chronicle is about these 3 high schoolers who touch a meteor or something that falls from the sky, and they develop powers and get influenced by their new confidence in sort of way. And I think it's just a more of a realistic and, again, darker way of how ordinary people are influenced by power. But the effects, I think, are great, and I love the story, and there's tons of action in it. I think that this movie is a great juxtaposition of what you get in The Mask, and I think this will serve a different itch for you in the same category. And then the last movie I'm going to recommend is the first Kick-Ass movie.
Wow, I haven't thought of it though. I did like the first one better than the
sequel. So did I. And the first one is also based on a very dark comic book.
So true.
Yeah,
so
and
true.
I think the violence and the choreography in there is top notch. Great, colorful, vibrant costumes and characters, very like The Mask, but again, more deep in realism as far as like getting hurt and the violence and all of that. I think served a bit better than what you would get from The Mask. So those are my picks for that. Thank you. As far as the inspired movie that The Mask has brought up, I want to watch Zapped again. I don't remember it, but it's this kid, I think this kid who gets powers, he gets telekinesis, and I want to watch this movie again.
Please do. So we're ready. See, with all these movies mentioned, we're ready for the R-rated Mask, clearly. That was another episode of Radical Retro Rewind Podcast Down. Rob, where can the lovely people find you when you're not hanging out over here?
Rob the Movie Geek on Instagram. That is all one word. The page hasn't gotten a lot of action lately, but that is another place where you can see archived reviews that I've done over the years. Visit me there.
As well as the Radical Retro Rewind Podcast, one word on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and beyond. So enjoy the month of Greene. Still, thanks to Rob, Leprechaun, and The Mask. Here we go. Stay tuned, as always, for another episode next week, and stay radical, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.